and I saw all the brick buildings. And my first thought of the brick buildings was, what do they do when there's an earthquake?
Yeah. お邪魔してすいません。アーサーです。今回の動画ではあなたの英語のリスニングを鍛えるためのネイティブ同士の会話をお届けしたいと思います。初めての方は Welcome to my channel。このチャンネルを通してあなたも実際に使える英語力を身につけていただけたらなと思っていて、定期的にこういう長めのネイティブ同士の会話を字幕付きでシェアしています。英語と日本語の字幕が両方ついているので、あなたのリスニングや理解度が気軽に確認できます。今回の会話はもともと The Austin and Arthur Show という別のチャンネルで放送されたものですね。そのチャンネルでは字幕がないのでちょっとハードルが高いのですが、字幕がなくてもいろんな話が聞きたいと思っているのであれば、ぜひ The Austin and Arthur Show をご確認ください。あとは最後に皆さんのご意見を聞かせていただきたいことがあります。オースティンとの会話は毎回盛り上がってかなり長くなりますね。で、そのため、これから2つのパートに分けて公開していこうと思っています。テストとして今回は2つのパートに分けて、パーツ2は明日公開する予定ですね。1本の長い動画で公開するか、複数の動画に分けて公開するのか、どちらがいいか、ぜひコメント欄でご意見を聞かせてください。And with that, let's get started.But
yeah, so we were going to talk today about earthquakes in Japan.
The big scare.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, so I remember like when there was this experience I had back in 2018. So I'd lived here for about 4 or 5 years where I realized I am more used to life in Japan now than I am to life in the United States. Because I remember I went to Korea in 2018 for a wedding from one of my friends.And I saw all the brick buildings. And my first thought of the brick buildings was, what do they do when there's an earthquake?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, there's no earthquakes here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I kind of want to hear from you. Like, so it doesn't have to be in Japan, but what was your first experience
with an earthquake?
In an earthquake? Yeah.
So my very first experience was, sorry, I keep moving away from the mic.
It's okay.
My very first experience with an earthquake that I can remember was I was in 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So was that 10 years old?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Right. I was in 5th grade, and at my elementary school, the 5th grade, like I think our school was getting remodeled.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got put out into these portable classrooms.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they're these like kind of cheap wooden classrooms that are
Mm-hmm.
kind of like raised up on stilts.
Yeah.
Right. And at the time, Seattle had a big earthquake for Seattle, right?
Oh, which like was, earthquake warning. Like there was going to be an earthquake.
No,
right?
no. Like when I was in class, we had a big earthquake, and I think it ended up being like on the Richter scale was like a 6.9 or something.
Wow. Okay,
like it was a substantial earthquake. A lot of buildings got damaged.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there were any deaths, luckily, but it was a very noticeable earthquake, and like our building shook for like 5 minutes straight.
Okay. Wow.
And I remember none of us were scared. I think most of the kids were just like really confused, like why is the building shaking?
Why is the building shaking?
Yeah. And it was really weird being on the portable because, like I said, we were on these stilts, and so after the earthquake stopped, like the stilts were still swaying back and forth.
Okay.
So it's like a really weird sensation. And then after that, like I never experienced earthquakes.
Okay.
Like, because Seattle
in Seattle, yeah.
Yeah, because like Seattle's kind of a weird place because actually we're also on a fault line, just like Japan is. But the difference is the fault line in Seattle is located just a little bit out into the ocean.
Okay.
Whereas like the fault line in Japan's like basically runs along the coast.
Yeah.
Right. It's very similar to California. California has frequent earthquakes, just like Japan. And so moving on, like I remember when the huge earthquake in 2011 happened. So I was in the Marines at the time, and I was stationed down in California. And I don't remember. Maybe I've told this story like
I don't think so.
Okay. But it was such a weird sensation. So like I heard, so like I've always had an interest in Japan, right? So I keep up to date with like the current events, and so at the time I knew that there was a big earthquake in Japan, but I didn't really know the details and like how devastating it was. And I remember, so the Marine base, it's Camp Pendleton down in California. It's located right on the beach, right? And so I often went to the beach because it's like a 10-minute walk.
You're right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd go out there and like I see this big object on the beach. And there's like a lot of garbage that's like washing up, and that's not common. Like the beaches in California are usually really clean.
Yeah.
And so like I was really confused about that. And so like I walked up to this object, and it's like I noticed it was a washing machine.
Really?
I'm like, what the hell is a washing machine doing on the beach? And so I'm like getting closer to it, and all of a sudden I notice that there's Japanese on it.
It's a Japanese washing machine?
Yeah, it was a Japanese. So apparently the tsunami that struck Japan pulled stuff out, and some of that debris, including a washing machine, managed to go all the way across the Pacific Ocean and end up washing up on a beach.
Okay. So the earthquake was on March 11th. So like, how long after the earthquake is this? Do you remember?
This was like maybe a week or something.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know. It was a short time after the earthquake. I don't know the exact date.
Okay.
But
wow.
I just know that this was after the earthquake happened, because when I saw the Japanese, I was thinking like, oh, this could be because of the earthquake.
Yeah.
But it was so astonishing to me that a washing machine, because like I'm sure currents work underwater and everything, but it's just like you don't think of a washing machine being able to travel that distance.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was so
in
crazy.
A week. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it might have been 2 weeks or whatever, but it was recently after the earthquake. But yeah, I was so surprised about that.
Man. It's funny you mentioned that, right? So because I remember when 3/11 happened too, I was like looking at Facebook at night, and I just saw all these posts about this earthquake that happened. And my first thought was like, I told my Japanese friend like, hey, I think there was a big earthquake in Japan. Like I had no clue what actually happened, but I never had experienced an earthquake. Yeah. So I would never know what it was.
Oh, they don't have them on the East Coast, do they?
No, never. And so I remember the first time I experienced an earthquake, I was in Japan. And it was like maybe about a week into when I came in August. Like I was staying at my friend's apartment in Myogadani on the Marunouchi line, and I remember it was like 5 or 6 in the morning, and I was thinking my bed was shaking. I was like, "Who's shaking my bed? Come on, man, Toshi, what the are you doing? Why are you shaking my? Holy crap, no one's around. What? My bed's shaking. Oh my, the apartment's shaking. Oh no, what's going to happen?" And it was done before I even realized it. But I was like freaking out right as like my panic was getting to its peak. That's when it stopped. Yeah. Suddenly. And that was my first experience with an earthquake. I was like, oh, so just to tell you though, I hate roller coasters, and I hate anything where I am not in control of the movement of my body.
Okay.
And so earthquakes are like a whole new level of terrifying for me.
Yeah.
That was my first experience ever, was 2013.
So something that's pretty interesting is how common earthquakes are. Like, and when I say common, I really want to stress the word common. Like, there will be an earthquake that if you're paying attention, you will feel it.
Yeah.
At least once a week.
Yeah.
Like,
if you're paying attention.
Yeah, if you're paying attention. Usually they're small enough that they're pretty easy to not notice. But I'll tell you, and I'm actually curious if you get the same sensation. When I go back to the States, and then when I come back here, does it feel like the world is just constantly swaying?
I think that's just you, man. I don't get that so much.
So I get this sensation when I come back to Japan that it only lasts for like a week. But it's like the first week that I'm back after I've spent time back in the States, I feel like, and maybe this is my anxiety or my body just being really sensitive to movement for a while until it gets accustomed to small earthquakes here. But I just feel like the world is just constantly like shaking.
Did you so do you get seasick easily?
No.
Okay. Yeah, because I've never felt that either, and I never get seasick either. But I just, it's just the thing that gets me is like, when I go back to the States now,
Yeah.
I'm like thinking about, what to do in case of an earthquake. But there's no earthquake ever in Boston,
Yeah.
you know. But I'll tell you, one of the weirdest experiences I had, well, not the weirdest experience, but like the most impactful experiences I've ever had was I was at the Tsutaya
Mm-hmm.
at the Shibuya Scramble. So right above, I was at the Starbucks above the Tsutaya, and this is like, what, 4th floor or whatever. I remember there was an earthquake,
Mm-hmm.
and then the building started to sway like
Okay.
a tree. And I remember being inside the building and seeing the scene in front of me moving. Like, not fast. It was like very slow. It was like
Yeah.
what you'd expect, like a weeping willow tree, kind of like swaying in the wind and stuff.
Yeah.
I was just like, holy crap, this thing is moving. And
Yeah.
I'm like moving too, but no one else cares. It's only me. It only
Yeah.
seems like it's me that's noticing this. And like, don't you guys worry about what would happen if this building tilted over because of it? But no,
Yeah.
they have enough earthquake support, you know?
Yeah. So I remember maybe it was someone else I was having a conversation with this, or maybe it was with you. I don't remember, but I had it explained to me because
Mhm.
I've known this at a surface level that skyscrapers sway,
Mm-hmm.
but at least from my understanding, is the skyscrapers here in Japan are built to withstand
Mhm.
earthquakes. So they're actually able to like tilt at like an insane degree. It's
Mhm.
like I don't know what degree it is, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's like where it looks like it's almost bending over,
yeah.
and that's totally normal. And
Yeah.
the building can withstand that stress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing, like
Yeah.
the architecture here, like
Mhm.
building buildings to like withstand that, you know?
Yeah.
Because like when I think about it in the States, like the worst thing that happens in Massachusetts, where I am, especially now
Yeah.
that we're at we live at the bottom of a hill next to the ocean,
Mm-hmm.
is floods. Like
Oh,
that was
sure.
the worst thing that would happen to us is floods. I mean, also we would get a lot of thunderstorms,
Yeah.
blackouts and stuff like
Yeah.
that, but like never tornadoes, never earthquakes or anything that was like big. Like one thing that's kind of interesting to me is I feel like on the news here in Japan, you get so much information about natural disasters. Like,
Oh,
there's a
yeah.
typhoon coming through, be careful. Oh,
Yeah.
there's an earthquake, be careful. Like
Yeah.
every other week, it seems like there's something to be careful about, mindful about, right?
Yeah.
Or like even in the summer, it's super hot. Be careful of heat stroke, get your. Whereas in the States, it's like, yeah, well, where I'm from, there's a hurricane coming. Careful.
Yeah.
We named it Arthur this month.
Yeah, no, it really rings out, like you mentioned the heat stroke thing, because something they do every night on the news during the summer here
Yeah.
is they'll show like the infrared of Tokyo. Have you never seen those?
No, I don't really watch TV.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's fair. So they'll show like a common place they'll show is like Shibuya.
Mhm.
And they'll show like basically they have like a satellite or maybe
Mhm.
just a camera on a helicopter like looking down on Shibuya, and so it's an infrared camera, so it's actually able to pick up like the temperature of
Mhm.
of what the sidewalk is, and so they'll be like, hey, this place is actually really dangerous for people who are vulnerable to heat strokes
Okay.
during the summer, so you
Yeah.
should avoid going to this area.
Yeah.
You should go to like these areas over
Yeah.
here. You can see on our camera that it's actually colder
Yeah.
in these spots.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I noticed that was maybe last year or the year
Mm-hmm.
before, and I just remember looking at that being like, damn, that's so cool
Yeah.
that they're able to like look down and see these infrared cameras and be like, okay, well, this is a hot spot,
Yeah.
so just go here and here. Like,
Yeah, the depth of the public safety announcements that they make here is quite astounding. Like,
yeah,
because I remember watching on TV in the summer where they were talking about, no, it was in the winter. Sorry, it was in the
Mhm.
winter because I was in Niigata, snow country,
yeah,
and they were talking about be careful to not get into the bath too fast because you will lose consciousness and maybe drown. Like they had a whole special on that about how like, and it's funny because I almost
Yeah.
I experienced a little bit of that because what happens
Yeah.
is it's so cold, so your blood flow gets restricted. When you go into the hot water, your arteries and veins open up, so then the blood like rushes around your body,
Yeah.
and you can lose consciousness easily.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, like, in the States, no one would make an announcement about, be careful, this might happen to you. It's just kind of like, hey, you're on your own.
Don't
Good
be
luck.
an idiot.
Yeah, don't be an well, not even that. It's just like we just don't even care, you know.
No.
But yeah, that's like one thing that I really like about living here is, at first, you know, I really felt like it was kind of like infantilizing the general public of like, oh, you know, they can't think on their own, so they need these news stories to tell them
Yeah.
to be careful. But now I see it, and it's really kind of considered. Like when you go to the vending machines, of course they have a business motive, whatever. But like talking about being aware of heat stroke and staying hydrated, you know, I
Yeah.
kind of appreciate those things
Yeah.
now. Or even
Yeah.
like in the trains, like they'll have, depending on the area, they'll tell you, oh, this area has really strong UV light because of the sun, so you might want to be careful.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just like a whole
Yeah,
new
it's
level.
it's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Alright, 最後までご覧いただきありがとうございます。この動画をご覧になった方のお役に立てたら嬉しいなとは思うのですが、まだ問題があります。多くの英語を勉強している特に日本人の方はフレーズや文法を学んだり、こういうリスニング動画を見たりするのですが、いきなり外国人の対面して話す機会があったら、頭が真っ白になって言葉が出てこなくなります。この悩みを抱えている方のためにこのチャンネル、この活動を始めました。僕自身も日本語を4年間勉強したのに、実際に日本に行ったら全く話せなくて本当に悔しい経験をしました。でもその経験のおかげで実際に話せるようになる方法を発見して、世界とつながるメソッドにまとめてみました。で、英語を学ぶだけではなく、生の世界で実際に気軽に話せるようになりたい方におすすめです。で、そのメソッドの詳細は無料レッスンでシェアしていますので、詳しくは You can click up here or you can click the link below this video.As always, enjoy your English adventures, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. これからも一緒に世界とつながりましょう! See you tomorrow!